Hi, Peter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Gilbert. It's nice to be here with you again.
Yes, thank you for joining us I would say, for a quick update before the holidays begin. I believe we last talked on the PDAC early this year in March, and we talked a few topics. Maybe we can revisit some of these soon here for some updates. The first one being we talked about interest rates, and indeed, the Fed had started the rate cut cycle, but probably later than most people expected. But the U.S. dollars has been stronger than ever these days. So what's your comment on that? What do you think of what's going on here in the whole general the dollar and the rate cut cycle affecting the whole market space?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. The US dollar index has been very strong. I was quite surprised by that. Didn't expect it, especially since we're in a rate cutting cycle. And I don't think that's done. I do expect we're going to see more cuts come for the next few quarters at least. But I think it may actually be more the story behind it may actually be more because the index is, made up of other currencies, right? So you're comparing the dollar to other currencies, and we're talking about the euro, the yen, Canadian dollar, Swiss franc, Canadian dollar, et cetera. So and the pound sterling. If you look at what's been going on, I think that probably more of the story of the strength in the dollar is weakness in other currencies. And you know, it's interesting. You think about, we know Trump has been elected. He's taking office at the end of January. Um, and I think there's some bullishness in terms of US stocks. I think what has happened is that you have investors globally saying, wow, look at the US. The market's strong. They think it will likely continue to be strong, and they want to take part in it. So they have to buy US dollars to buy US stocks. And I think that has helped push up the dollar by in turn, because you have to sell your currency to buy the US dollar, that's contributed to weakness in those currencies and strengthen the dollar. I do, however, think that it's been quite the run. It's been very strong over a very short period. And I don't think it's fundamentally supported. I also think that, we're going to at some point, very likely at some point in 2025, see a reversal in US stocks. A lot of people are just not ready for that. They're just chasing the higher prices, but it will come. I can't be sure when, of course, but when it comes, it's going to bite pretty hard. And I also think that a recession is in the cards, probably sometime within the first half of next year. And we know that typically, at least in the last few recessions, when the Fed starts to cut, it takes about 3 to 4 months on average for recession to actually start. So let's think about it. They started cutting in September or December already. To see something substantial in terms of recession in the first quarter would not be a shock. I think that, but like I say, in the first half, odds are pretty good. That's what's likely to happen. And I do think that the dollar is probably peaking sometime soon around 107 in the index. And that's a little bit of a headwind for precious metals, but when it does peak and reverse, I think it's likely to act as a tailwind.
Indeed, I'm quite agree with you on the recession thing because of how much drastic the 50-point cut in recent beginning. So I think that's a sort of a sign investors should be aware. And let's talk about your specialty here. That's the silver area, the silver price. We're coming to the end of this year. So any thoughts or comments of how it's performing so far this whole year? Because the previous 2 years mostly on the sideways, as you said. But this year, what's your thoughts on that?
So I haven't looked at the numbers sort of year to date right now, but I know that up at least until about a month or so ago, or at least late October before we had the big correction, silver was outperforming gold. So it's been a really strong year. And if you look at, if you take things like, let's say the SIL ETF, which is a grouping of, say, mostly larger silver stock companies, there's a lot of gold companies in there, but it's outperforming also the gold stocks. So it's interesting. So it's been a strong year. If you look 12 months back, if you look from year to date, if you look from the bottom, which would have been sort of late February, silver stocks have been very, very strong performers. They're skewed, like the ETF will be skewed because some certain names have big weights within the ETF. So those companies, there's Korea Zinc in particular, which has been I think it's part of a takeover battle, and so it's being bid up considerably, and so that has contributed considerably to the rise in the price of the SIL ETF. But overall, silver stocks have really done very well. They've pulled back along with the silver price since it peaked in October at around $35. But when they bottomed in February and ran up, we were at over 40% gain in silver, and some of the silver stocks that, let's say, if you look around that time, late February, early March, some were up 70, 80%, some have more than doubled. So to see somewhat of a pullback over the last sort of month or two, not too much of a surprise. We're heading into tax loss selling season. But I do think that the silver price is going to hold up. I think we're somewhere around $30, which was a previous ceiling. At least it acted as mostly as a ceiling since about 2020. Now I think it's going to start to act like a floor. I think that will be a new support level for the silver price, and that we're likely to see higher once again from here.
Yeah, great to see that. And we also talk a bit about jurisdiction, about silver mining in the world, and specifically Mexico is one of the greatest silver production in the whole world. How's it trending? So as far as we saw the news, so the latest is the potential ban on the open pit mining in Mexico. Now the new president is saying that she's going to review that with the balance of different views. So is that some kind of optimism that you think there's some potential flexibility in terms of that?
Yes, I do think so. She is much more of a pragmatist. She's much more practical. She's also a scientist, and so and she's been appointing, people in different departments, different sectors on the business side, on the environment side. On the mining side, resources, etc. These are all people with a lot of experience, very practical. Again, other scientists, that will look at and have the background of following what science has shown. And so I think we're going to see a new openness to open pit mining. Let's be careful, when we talk about open pit mining. I don't see that they would ban it in the sense of having to forcing existing open pit mines to stop mining. That I do not see happening, no matter what. The concern is that they would not permit new open pit mines, but there are so many districts and states within Mexico that where mining is so important and open pit is so important, and so many people depend on mining. The governors in those states have, rely a lot on mining, have had the new president's ear, and are making it very clear to her that this, it needs to continue. Not even business as usual, but business as more open than it has been in the last administration, because they rely so much on it, and their economy, obviously Mexico is not a first world country. And so it relies even more on economy to help its people to earn a decent wage and so on. So I do think that we're going to see some openness. Nobody knows for sure, but I do think that that's coming, and we are, I think, probably a matter of months, I hopefully at most, away from starting to see the issuing of new permits. There's been a backlog. A lot of things got shut down under the old administration in terms of mine permitting period, and I think that that's about to change. I'm hopeful. I really am. I think that it's looking a lot more positive now. We have to see these first permits come to declare victory, that's for sure. But I think the odds are pretty good.
How about in the US with the new administration coming in soon? I see a lot of like mining media or companies drumming some positivity, saying that hey, this is going to be the permitting, other things is going to be much better, faster, potentially encouragement in the mining sector in the US.
Yes, I agree. I do think that's coming as well. You know, people may like or not like Trump, but in many ways, he's a more practical kind of guy, a more business oriented kind of guy. Uh, to be clear and to be specific, he likes to say drill, baby, drill. When he talks about that, I think he's talking about oil and gas specifically. But from what I've read, there is also openness equally or somewhat equally to the mining side of things, so metals, etc. Um, and so I think that is going to be streamlined. We're going to see faster access to being able to permit, to get mines built. It doesn't mean skipping steps. It just means streamlining things and focusing and giving priority to getting things done and getting them done properly. But I do think that with Trump there now, overall, we're likely to see some good progress in terms of timing to see mines come to production. So again, across the board, whether it's permitting for exploration, for drilling, construction, environmental assessments, and so on. I think all of this is going to improve. And so I think that companies that have either U.S. companies that are mining companies or companies that have assets in the U.S. will start to see the benefit of that over the next few years.
Yes, and let's talk a bit more on silver stocks now. Last time we chatted, you provided a couple of stock picks. Let's just talk about the first one here. Iron Gold and Silver. It's been doing quite well actually since we last chatted until recently a bit of a correction. So is it a short-term thing or what your view on the company?
Yeah, I do think that it's a short-term thing. I do see it as an opportunity. If anyone, was interested in that stock, felt that it had gotten away from them a little bit because it did run up quite a bit since we spoke, which was pretty much what I expected. I think that we do have an opportunity now. So what happened was two things. One is they're they are expanding. This is one of the biggest expansions for this size of company that I've almost ever seen. They have finished the expansion of their existing Zgounder mine in Morocco. This is one of the world's only larger pure silver mines. It's really something quite rare, in fact. Um, it only produces silver. And so the expansion is taking it from about 2 million to about 8 million ounces per year once it's in full production. So that's a quadrupling of output. That's something that you almost never see. They've had just at the very end, so in the last sort of couple of months, they had a few hiccups. They had some, I think, one-time issues with getting things up and running. They actually just very recently had their very first silver pour, and so they're working their way up to full commercial production. I think we'll see that over the next couple of quarters or so. And so I think it's a great chance to get in because the price has, as you say, has in fact pulled back. One of the other things that hit the price was that they revised their guidance as well for 2024. So obviously the market didn't like that. It was a hefty revision downwards. But I do think that, again, anyone interested should use this as an opportunity. Once this starts to ramp up, I think that the market's going to start to return to valuing it again much higher.
Any other silver stock that you think investors should be paying attention in the new year?
Yes. Um, There's one that I like a lot that is a larger play. It's pre-production. I'm going to say it's an advanced developer, and this is also a larger size company. It's over $1 billion. It's called Skeena Resources, and so they're in your backyard, Gilbert. They will be developing the Eskay Creek mine in British Columbia, and they are very, very well funded already. They they have a resource that is going to produce um, once it starts production, which is likely only going to be in about 2027 or so, but there's a lot of good news to come until we get there. And they have all sorts of things that we're going to likely see over the next year or two in terms of improvements on the already stated feasibility studies. So look for improvements with that. The first 5 years are going to see somewhere around 9.5 million ounces per year of production. Although the value of the metal is about a little over 1/3 silver and 2/3 gold. I think that as the gold silver ratio drops and silver gains versus gold, we're going to see the silver portion gain in value over the gold. As I say, I think that it's going to be one of the richest open pit mines in the world because there's a lot of great infrastructure already. The capex is going to be very reasonable. There's all sorts of access already. And it's just one to watch. It's going to be very, very profitable. And if you look at the numbers and you put spot prices on the silver and on the gold in the study, you actually end up with a value for the project that's, I'm going to say, more than double what it currently is. So we're talking about over $3 billion for a company that's $1 billion and change right now. So Skeena Resources, it's not in production yet, but very solid. They have about half the permits that they need at this point. I'm very, very bullish on the progress here, and I think that it's going to be one that will provide some great leverage to silver.
Thank you for your insights here with us. Thank you for your time here. I think I'll let you go, but before I do that, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year before we see each other in the new year again.
Thanks very much, Gilbert. The same to you. And if anybody wants to follow me, they can go to silverstockinvestor.com. That's my newsletter. And I've also published a book called A Great Silver Bull, which they can find on Amazon. So happy to reach out and also to follow people on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Peter_Krauth, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So happy to connect with your viewers.
Indeed. Thank you for your time here.